Hi, it's Richard here from Intelligent Advisor IT Consulting with another in our series about the example projects provided with Oracle Policy Modeling. This week we're looking at Know Your Customer, which is, I think, pretty much in the middle of the list. There are about 25, and I think we're probably at number 12 or 13, so who knows, we might even be halfway through. So let's find out a little more about Know Your Customer. So as usual, if we go into the example projects and scroll down, we'll find Know Your Customer. We can see that it's designed for demonstration purposes, at least in the financial services, but also the insurance industry. So it has something in common with the last project which we saw about a week ago, which was Insurance Picker. And the key features of this project are scoring and explanations and forms. So that gives us an opportunity to talk about explanations and also to consider how they use scoring in this project. Let's take a look first of all at the interview itself. As you can see, it uses a lightly customized interview experience. It has a default theme, but it's actually been played around with a little bit so that we have the navigation strip down the side and we have changes in the color scheme. Nothing too serious. And we can also take a look at the different stages of this interview. So we have subsections, basically a welcome page, followed by the details of your request, specifically the country that the branch of the financial services institution is based in, general customer and business information, and a bunch of details about trading names and customer details, residence details, and so on. You'll notice that the majority of the screens are shown if relevant, so it's using the concept of interview goals. And you'll notice that in this particular interview, there is only one interview goal. So you can see clearly that all of the visibility of the screens is driving towards getting that decision answered. You'll also notice that the screen names use substitution, something you don't see that often, so it's a good learning experience, as well as you can see standard labels here using substitution as well. In terms of the data model, we have global entity and one other entity, the country of residence. Since potentially you could have multiple countries of residence, there is only one attribute called the country of residence, and that is collected by country of residence. And we'll go and have a look at that. And as you can see, this is a good old-fashioned entity collect, which has been restyled to show add another country and simply displays the single field, but you're allowed to enter multiple countries if that is your case. In terms of rules, you can see that we have a well-structured group of rules, system rules containing default values, list values, and validation rules, and then the country-specific rules, and they've only implemented for British, Dutch, and French, followed by scoring levels and scoring limits. Let's go have a quick look at some of the validation rules that are present in this example project. Let's go and have a look at the list values file. So you can see that this particular list values, it's designed to essentially take a value in a list and transform it into a Boolean. This is a strategy that you'll see quite a lot since it facilitates then making decisions based on the Boolean. And if one day this changes, well, you change it here, and anywhere that you've been using the Boolean, you don't need to change. So there's a wide variety of, should we call them, Boolean transformations in list values. Validation file is empty and the default values just contains reference to the current date. Let's take a look at the French scoring rules, since the three scoring rules files have similar structure and ideas. You'll notice a couple of things. First of all, the KYC, the Know Your Customer score, based on the French rules. So this is the summary, if you like, of all the different scoring for all the different questions for a French customer. And you'll see a familiar strategy here where we have scoring broken down into tables based on the different business types and the different use of business accounts and the different estimated wealth. And if we then compare that to the Dutch system, we'll see a very similar initial summary score, and then we have different score levels, but essentially the same outcomes. So we have a nice structured three files, but they're all using the same basic structure. Scoring levels As you'd expect, if we open up this Word document, you can see growing towards the final conclusion of what is the recommended Know Your Customer decision. And we can see that there are essentially 3 different decisions available: accept, perform further checks, or reject the customer. And finally, the scoring limits, which is the only Excel file in the project. And this is where we summarize the 3 countries that I mentioned and what represents the score for review, score for acceptance, and the Know Your Customer score, of course, depending on which country you're in, will bring in the score from the relevant Word document. So in the case of France, we'd be bringing in the contents of the Word file that referred to French businesses. So the actual document structure, the actual rule structure, very easy, very well done. Now we need to turn our attention to the forms. And you can see we have a Know Your Customer form. It's an RTF, so you can open it up in your Word. If you haven't already done so, you can and should download the Oracle Analytics Publisher Desktop for Office, which would allow you to make changes to it, which basically gives you this toolbar. As you can see, it's a fairly easy file to change because it simply repeats a variety of static information followed by the customer value, essentially the value of the customer attribute, and then a brief summary of what you want to use it for and what our decision is based on our goal score. Very simple, very easy, nice and easy to modify as well if you want to take that a little bit further. We also need to talk about the concept of explanations, because if we look at the last screen, we have an explanation entitled "The Recommended KYC Decision Subject to Approval." So this will generate the decision report, or I should say the explanation for the goal of the interview. So if we go ahead now and run this, I'll start the interview, say I'm based in France. It was incorporated in 2018. Country of incorporation France. So XYZ 1, 2, 3. 1, 2, 3. Further details: it's commercial. We have 100 employees, an annual turnover of 5.5. Let's do 5 million. That'll be easier. And they want to use it as bank deposits. No, I want to use it as an investment account. And yes, we have a presence abroad. Total estimated wealth on hand, 15 million. 1 to 5 million with the bank. Any other we've got another $1 million worth of investment. Country of residence, France, and another country, Estonia, and another country, Canada, as you can see, I'm using the entity collect, and the recommended decision is accept the customer. And when we drill down, we start to see the complete breakdown of why the answer is yes. So a great opportunity for you to modify the project is to go back to any of these where you consider that you might want to, for example, if we look at this attribute here, which concerns the professional activity of the customer, find the appropriate attribute, go to explanation options, and consider whether you want to render this as a silent attribute, so that when we return to our report, we've broken off the chain here. You can see that it stops here and it doesn't doesn't display what in this case we might consider to be a not particularly pertinent extra level. So we could do that with this one and this one as well, and we could adjust the rest of the explanation as we see fit. Or indeed, for that matter, we could add our own explanation based on some subsection of that report. And of course, we have the form, which we mentioned just a few moments ago, available to us in RTF format. You'll recall that when you go to you go to a form in the screen, you can click here to have it in a different format. So you could say, actually, I want to display it, I want to download it in PDF form. Again, simple to do, nice to deliver. So all in all, a very straightforward project. Very simple to understand, very simple to modify for that matter, in 3 or 4 key areas. First of all, modifying the explanation. Clearly, of course, for the purposes of a demonstration, would be either to modify the scoring system that is involved here, or for that matter, adding another country so that you are able to then go to your scoring limits and build out the model so that you have yet another country in your list, and setting the scores for reviewing and acceptance, and creating a variable so that you can create the KYC score for your country. Not very difficult, and gives you the opportunity of demonstrating how you can make changes live in a demonstration or in an interview situation. So let's finish off by doing just what we said. Let's create a new example here. We'll call this the Estonia scoring rules. And to save time, at least for the purposes of this demo, I'll copy all of that, paste it into my file here, Estonia, and we'll replace this with Estonian rules. So we've created the basic framework. Actually, I think I should correct that. Yeah. We can open up our Excel spreadsheet and we can add a line here. Obviously, for the moment, I'm not going to make too many changes, and we'll add this as well. So that's an interesting feature, is that in this Excel spreadsheet they're using the declarations tab to provide legends which are essentially shorter versions of very long attributes. So it just means that instead of typing out all that detail about the business organizations, blah, 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 you can just type Estonian score. So Estonian score, Estonia, there we go. And we'll go to our interview and we'll add Estonia to our list of choices at the very beginning. And once we've done that, we can restart our interview. Let's see what we have. We'll say that we're from Estonia, and we'll put in a test, and we'll say okay, well, you know this part. And I'll put in a registration number and I'll click next. We're not going to be involved in any of those particular activities. We're going to be commercial. We'll say we have 100 employees. We have an annual turnover of 5 million. I'm not going to, yeah. And it's going to be used for investment. And we have presence abroad, yes. Total estimated wealth, that'll do. We'll add this, and we'll add some more. I appreciate that this is not necessary to make it work, but let's just go through the steps. There we go. getting closer to reality now. And when we push our breakdown to see our explanation, we'll see that we have the acceptable score for Estonia, and we have all the different professional scoring for Estonia, since we just copied and pasted the original one from France. And we could now go away and, of course, make adjustments to that so that we had a fully functional Estonian scenario. So that just about wraps it up for today for this simple and easy bite-sized project called Know Your Customer, or KYC. See you next time for the next one. Bye-bye.